friends, today the topic of my lecture is budgeting a play. Budgeting is the most important aspect of any production. A making of a production requires meeting various expenditures, a detailed list of which shall be mentioned later in the lecture. Right from the day of choosing a script till the last performance ends, there are but a myriad of expenditures involved in the forms of payments, hiring fees, rentals and purchases. There are also a number of ways to collect funds for the production, which need to be documented, including ticket sales. Although the expenses incurred, sources of income generated and manner of budgeting a play can differ from production to production, the general approach more or less remains the same. Thus, even though we may abstain from commenting on any single method as the universal method, we shall be discussing about the general approach towards budget making in this lecture. As we are aware, theatre is practiced by indigenous, amateur as well as commercial groups. Each of these has different visions and motives behind staging the productions. Therefore, there is a basic difference of nature between their script, production design and distribution of budget. I have further elaborated on their differences with respect to planning a budget in the middle section of this lecture. I would also like to suggest here that it is best to start the process of budgeting a play once the script is finalized, as this clarifies several aspects like the number of actors involved, the design, or whether periodic or realistic or any other specific style. Now, let's get on to this. What is a budget? Let us understand the concept of budgeting right from the basic. A budget is a financial plan specifying the statement of allocation of resources to achieve an objective within a specified period of time. It involves planning in advance all the costs to be incurred, incomes to be generated and maintaining an account with the actual figures of the same when the object is into motion. Now, the question arises, why is a budget required? Any production is but just a creative dream until it has the funds to help it materialize into an actual performance. It is a challenging task to find the right source with the right resources willing to invest into someone's creative dream. Nevertheless, it is possible. But then, it becomes extremely important for one to value every rupee involved and spend with measured accuracy without compromising upon the creative quality of the project. That is where the role of a production manager comes in, to maintain a balance between the resources available and expenditures to be met. A segment dedicated to the role of production manager shall follow later in the lecture. As of now, let us return to our topic of why is the budget required? Well, budgeting of a play means the distribution of money in each department of the production in accordance to their requirement. Therefore, it helps in prioritizing the expenditures and focusing upon the fundraising. Also, it guides the director and design team to keep a reality check on the availability of their resources and thus proceed accordingly. Now, let's discuss about the basic challenges. To create the maximum magic within the allocated budget is the actual challenge here. There might be times when one will have to work upon string-tight budget due to scarcity of funds while putting up the best possible show. The production budget is the system used to decide how much money to spend on each aspect of the play. Every production has its unique requirements in terms of design, execution, apart from the regular expenses. And once the production team starts working upon a play, they can set their own priorities and in their joint artistic and commercial judgment use money to maximum effect on the show. In an amateur theatre production, the entire idea to develop and stage a performance is to explore and experiment newer and creative ideas. The aim is to encourage creativity by trying out unconventional patterns or even dealing with context that might not be in popular demand. Thus, in order to attain creative freedom for self-exploration and expression, they might choose to be independent of public funding them through ticket sales. The medium of resources available might be different, like self-fundings, production on a voluntary basis, where a group of artists come together to put up a show without charging anything in return. Thus, the sole motive is not profit generation. The budget for an amateur or indigenous production does not have to be complicated. It only requires to be realistic. What does realistic mean? To have the right knowledge about the funds available and expenses to be incurred. Let us now come down to budgeting for a commercial theatre production. Budgeting for a commercial theatre production is guarded by the motive of profit generation and act as a source of income for the team or production company. Here, they hugely depend upon the amount generated by ticket sales. Thus, the main philosophy is total income minus total expenses equal to the projected profit. And if the show has to sustain, the end financial figure should never be in negative. However, to keep a check on that, there is an extensive process of budgeting. Now, that brings us to the question, how to budget? Now, let us learn about the process and various aspects of budgeting in detail. Budgeting is partly an art and partly a science. Much of the information needed for budgeting can be accurately deduced, but a certain amount can only be educated guesswork. Now, before we proceed, let us make ourselves familiar to the following two terms that I shall be referring during the explanation. These are the production budget and the performance budget. A production budget is the entire budget composing of details on all the expenses to be incurred, funds to be raised, and incomes to be generated. It includes the payments for the entire cast and crew, any royalties to be paid, the rehearsals, the publicity, the show, and any other costs that might arise after the performance is over. Whereas, a performance budget is mainly focused upon the details of the expenses incurred for the performance, like auditorium rent, hiring of the light and sound equipments, hiring costumes, etc. This may involve any wages needed for the technical assistants or runners or backstage staff helping on a daily basis. Therefore, one can deduce that the performance budget is but a subset of the production budget on the whole. Let us now first make a list of all the probable expenditures one would face during any production. Before the production starts, number 1, play royalties, 2, venue hire cost. Now, let's come down to the expenses incurred during the rehearsals. First, script photocopies and bindings. Number 2, hiring of dummy costumes and properties. Number 3, refreshments for the cast and crew during the rehearsals. Don't forget, that's the most important. 4, any material required by the stage manager for the stage manager's toolkit. 5, publicity, like press meetings, distributing flyers, putting up posters, radio broadcasting, etc. And 6th, posters and brochure printing. Now let's come down to the performance budget. The scenic design. This includes any raw material required, all the construction work to be done, labor charges, any object to be brought on hire, paintings or any polishing to be done. Second, properties. Here we have two subsections, the stage props and hand props. Stage props are movable pieces of furniture or other object that contributes to the space design in any manner, whereas hand props refer to the objects handled by the actors according to their character requirements. Number 3, costumes. This includes costs of raw materials and stitching, hiring, ironing, jewelry and yes, footwear. Number 4, lights. This is inclusive of hiring charges of all the lighting equipments like lights, cameras, wires and cables, console boards if the auditorium already does not have them. Additional costs of putting up grids or truss or stands for hanging lights might arise in case the production is being staged in an open theatre or the performance is site specific. Therefore, the provisions must be kept accordingly. Additional budget should also be kept for the consumable items like gel paper, gaffer tapes, etc. 5th, sound. This is inclusive of hiring equipments, microphones in case they are required, and the system requirements like speakers, DVD players in case the sound is being played via a DVD, a mixer board, etc. 6th, projection or video. This is inclusive of projector, monitor and screen in case projection is part of the performance design. 7th, documentation. Yes, you don't need to forget that. This includes photography and video recording. 8th, any special effects that you've used. And 9th, miscellaneous. During any production, irrespective of how well you have planned the budget at the beginning, there shall always be some last-minute unavoidable expenses. These might be due to any last-minute additions or mishaps, but whatever be the reason, a budget should always have room for these expenses at all times. Now, let's come down to post-production. This is the most important segment as this is where most of the payments are made. Although there might be chances that some people receive it before the performance, in maximum cases these bills are sorted after the show. I am here giving you a consolidated list of all the payments that need to be given to each head of various departments. The director, assistant director in case there is one, stage manager, set designer, light designer, sound designer, musicians, technical director and the technicians, photographers, video recorders, poster and brochure designers, makeup artists, property designers, costume designers, actors, backstage members, runners and people responsible for ticket sales, and anyone else who does not fall into any of these categories yet has been a part of the production in some manner. Now, let's discuss about the accounting for the expenses. It is essential to keep all the receipts and a set of accounts updated at all stages of the production, as this would help you monitor all the transactions. In order to maintain an organized accounts record for the production, the following format can be adopted. As you can see, after specifying the basic details about the name, director and duration of the production, we would require to mention the amount we have at the beginning against the title of opening balance. Thereafter, in the first column, we are supposed to enter the date on which the payment is being made. In the second column, we need to mention our receipt or bill number. Finally, mentioning the item purchased or hired, specifying the amount and taxes if any. Each sheet ends with the deduction of the total expenditure from the opening balance. This amount is then mentioned against the title closing balance. Now here, the points to remember are: A. All receipts should be numbered on the accounts with corresponding numbers on the receipts themselves. B. Items on which any taxes are charged should be specified in the table against their receipts. Thus, you will see that maintaining an accounts book not only simplifies the entire process of budgeting, it also enables one to keep a track of every little detail and bill. Additional things to be taken care of in case the production is traveling. If a production is traveling, then one should be prepared with some pre-hand knowledge about certain aspects. These are commuting expenses for the team, per diem or daily expenses on food for each person, lodging or stay of the entire team, transportation of set properties, costumes and other additional items as required by the production, and any additional provisions for any depreciation in any stuff during traveling, installing or disassembling. Let us now make a list of all the probable resources of funds available or income generation needed during the production. What amount of funds are being invested in the beginning? How much are the expenses? Once the expenses are figured out, it is easy to decipher the ticket pricing to be kept according to the audience capacity with respect to the total number of shows being held. Let us take an example. Let us say that the total cost of the production XYZ is rupees 15 lakhs. Let us assume that it is being staged in an auditorium of capacity for 300 audience for a period of 30 days with 2 shows per day. Assuming the ticket sales of a minimum of 50% per show, the total number of audience witnessing the production during the entire duration is 9,000. Now, dividing the total cost with that of the assumed total number of audience, we get 15 lakhs divided by 9,000 is equal to 166.67 rupees. Thus, we get the basic price for selling the tickets. Now, depending upon this, the production company can decide any amount that accommodates the profit margin they are looking for and finalize the ticket prices. Production budget meeting. Yes, production budget meetings are designed in order to generate a formal line of communication between all: the director, designers, technical director, and the production manager. This meeting is organized once the initial design ideas have been approved and before any department starts spending. At this meeting, an estimate is loosely charted out for all the departments based on their requirements in accordance to the funds available. At the meeting, a budget form should be filled and signed off by the production manager. Let us take a look at the budget form. As we can see, it includes the department specifications and the budget approved against each. The form also includes the date, time, and other basic information regarding the production meeting. Manager plays a significant role in the production budget meetings. Let's know about the role of production manager in a little detail. The production manager is responsible for budgeting, scheduling work, and coordinating the various production departments. Production manager is ultimately responsible for ensuring that all aspects of the production are completed within budget, according to the designers and directors' wishes, and in time for the first public performance. The production manager oversees the cost effectiveness and planning of the entire production process. Responsibilities may include any or all of the following: securing the rights to present the play from the royalty house or publisher agent, budgeting, deciding date, time and venue, forming a production team, production meetings, scheduling rehearsals and performances, setting the rehearsal venue, rehearsal process and preparation, financial accounting of the show's expenses and revenues. Having found the property and bought the rights, the producer starts by putting together a production budget. The cost of rehearsing, the expenses of the creative team, cast and orchestra, designing and making the scenery, costumes and properties, installing them all in the theatre, and marketing the results. He will then decide on the capitalization of the project, that is, the production budget plus a contingency fund to sustain the show until it is on its feet. In some theatres, he also determines how many weeks it will take to recover the production costs at varying levels of business. However, the single most important responsibility after securing the rights to the production is the development of a highly motivated and collaborative production team, which includes all those in charge of the various areas of the production: the director, set designer, lighting designer, costume designer, musical director, publicist, choreographer, technical director, stage manager, etc. Finally, it's a good idea to be familiar with the roles and responsibilities of the other key players in mounting a production. So be sure to view the other job descriptions in this series. Now, let us discuss about the basic principle of an effective budget making. Well, as they say, money is time. Working with a limited budget. Well, everybody who has worked on stage knows that most plays are produced on a shoestring budget. This forces you to be imaginative, do more with less, and find creative ways to get the results you want without spending much money. This is exactly what one requires for effective budget making. So, friends, I hope you must have enjoyed today's lecture. Lead on, all the best. Goodbye for now.